You're listening, hopefully, jetbroadcasting.com, 1420 WEMB Sports Radio, or more. I know that sometimes I get this, the signal, it's tough to get your show, Marquee, all this, and I tell them, hey, look, it's 5,000 watts, 1420. The farther you go on the AM dial down the line, the shorter the waves are. So, for instance, a station at 710, for instance, would have radio waves that would be twice as long as ours. So hence the 710 actually, that's a Clear Channel station. WOR out of New York, I think, it's a 50,000 kilowatt station. Therefore you can hear it all over the East Coast at 710. Once it goes dark, let's deal with that. I think they used to have the Mets. So I could be, WOR TV always did, but anyway. Regardless, and that's a long time ago that they had the Mets. Anyway. It should be mentioned, though, that, page, this show on archive, and if you haven't liked us on Facebook, why in the world have you not? Because you are missing out if you have not. Not only do you get the archives of this show, but community messages and all that, and plus some sports scenes. We are about to become the most liked and followed Facebook page of any sports radio station in the Tri-Cities, and there are 3 of them. They already got one beat. We're about 100 back of another one and gaining. So that should tell you something right there. Anyway, local news, Cade Larkins, the outstanding David Crockett quarterback, he tweeted out he got a offer from ETSU. That's all well and good. He also made a visit, I know, to Miami, and it bothers me, and I think it might have something to do with the coaching change over at David Crockett, because I know I've talked to Gerald Sensabaugh, who, remember, played at North Carolina and for the Dallas Cowboys and for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And even though he's a defensive back, I kind of think that he knows a little bit about what it takes to make a quarterback. And he was the guy who, played, Larkins and enjoyed it. Anyway, Larkins has changed the Pioneers from being one of the very worst high school football teams in the area to the state of Tennessee. And I know that record is going to break, it's not going to be held long. The passing records, they, come and go. I get that. Drew Brees is now the all-time leading passer. Before that, it was Peyton Manning. He didn't have the record that long. Before that, was it Brett Favre? I think it was Brett Favre. And it's not like it's, the home run record is Babe Ruth, and it's going to stay there for a couple of generations. And then it's going to be Hank Aaron, and it's going to stay there for a couple of generations. And now it's Barry Bonds, and the feeling is you got to cheat to break that record. And that's what the feeling is, isn't it? Regardless. Maybe it isn't quite that way, but I do think that throwing for more yards than anyone who ever played high school football in Tennessee is rather impressive. I also think it's impressive. And when I am told by Gerald Sensabaugh that I think Larkins could play in the ACC, and the offers come in from Miami and ETSU, I think this player is getting a bit short-sighted by the recruiting, the recruitniks, if you will. And I wonder, what a 26-year-old coach who's from Bluefield College and Daniel Boone, what ties he does have to major college football programs that could actually help a player in that case. Because look at this. You look at Cade at Greenville, and what Ballard was able to do down there and place 3 of his players on major D1 programs last year, assuming you count Army as a major program. But Virginia, Wake Forest, Army. Long snapper going to Tennessee. They put the players in the programs. That was the way it was, and it was that way big time during the Paul Hamilton era. Hamilton didn't have the recruiting budget to really go far. They didn't even give him a football camp. You see this thing Steve Forbes now has an individual basketball. Things have changed, Except for the fact they have a tennis court named after David Mullins. That's like, don't forget how terrible it was here. I'd like to believe that's the case. I actually think that the ETSU mantra is, everything is wonderful here. It's always been wonderful. It will continue to be wonderful, and never anything has been ever wrong. And we say this in the midst of 37-game losing streaks as well. Yeah, but regardless. Anyway, Cade Larkins getting the invite there to ETSU. I know he did make a visit. I don't know if it was official or not, but to Miami of Ohio. Thing about Larkins, I think that he's better than what they've been giving him right now. I'm not a, recruiting. I've covered recruiting, but then again, I think that a lot of the people that do cover recruiting or tell you this is a 5-star prospect, this is a 4, all they're doing is looking at stopwatches and lifts, and I don't know, velocity, or trying to say, I think he doesn't have a hitch in his motion trying to throw or something. You can tell whether a player is going to make it in 15 seconds or not, really. What if he drops the ball? What? No, what if he's Tom Brady at 15 or something? You're judging him. First time he takes a snap, just drops it. Oh, he can't make it. 15 seconds, really? Know what else today is? Today is the day, 8:30, they're going to show it on ESPN, draft lottery in the NBA. It's one of the reasons I hate the NBA. The draft lottery. You saw in Nashville just what an event the NFL draft is. And you know what? They don't need no stinking lottery. And in a way, the worst team then, and this I think is where the NFL gets it right, in that every other sport basically, when they have a draft lottery, the team that finishes, Howard Cosell years ago used to always joke that we may see the day where every team finishes 8-8, because the feeling was about parity. Look, the Cleveland Browns were 1-31 over 2 years. They may be the odds-on favorite to win the division, the AFC North, this year. And so that team that finishes in last place on draft day is really the most talked about team. They're like the Super Bowl team for that talked about team. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's a hell of a lot healthier than in college football and bad football team. Let's say Vanderbilt just keeps losing and losing and losing and losing and losing for 25 years straight. That's what I think, is that cities, and how many years now? 1947, so it's 72 years since they've won the NFL title. I don't even think that the Arizona Cardinals should count that, because that didn't belong to the people of Phoenix. That belonged to the people of Chicago. Southside, as a matter of fact, way back when, after the war. If you can still find any of their fans around from that time, but there's probably a guy who was 10 years old who loved Marshall Goldberg back in those days and went to Comiskey Park to watch him play, and he's 82 now, or something. Probably one or two guys left. I once heard of a guy who was an old Chicago Cardinals fan who flew on him. That's Die Hard. That guy made the Visa Hall of Fans in the late 90s. But anyway, let's go with the draft lottery now. The idea is that it prevents tanking. Here's the thing, though. I never have a problem with a team that realizes it's not going anywhere trying to roster. Because after all, our record is 10-50. Maybe we ought to, see what this guy can do. And there are some people. Recently saw a documentary, and I did the hockey, okay, and they have the lottery too, because Gary Bettman came from the NBA, where he was, he instituted the draft lottery there. And years ago, 1984 as a matter of fact, it's pretty well known that the Pittsburgh Penguins maybe didn't put out their best team in an effort to get the first round draft choice in Mario Lemieux. Now, had they not done that, the team probably would not exist right now. It'd probably be in Hamilton, Ontario, or something of this nature. Who knows? But it was rather obvious that that team, as it was assembled there, wasn't going to be a tweak away from the Stanley Cup, unless that tweak, the reason was because they traded away Randy Carlyle. But then again, Randy Carlyle was a top defenseman of the era. But then again, let's face this fact too, that sort of helps you out because you're, getting a draft choice, that sort of thing. It's called, they call it now tank. He was a really good, he was a goalie. He had played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Penguins had signed him to play at the AAA team. End of the year, he's called up to play 4 games, and he doesn't play all that well. Ooh, the Penguins were tanking. Well, when you're not going anywhere, maybe it behooves you to see what your AAA goalie can do. I do know this. I think that the players out on the ice or the field or the court, they're never more than this supposed number 1 draft choice can, or I can help you along with this supposed number 1 draft choice that you're going to get. So they're going to give their maximum effort. Maybe when you're doing things, you try different things. You know what? I always wanted, and since we're 17 and 53, maybe we can try this. And we're on the PK, the penalty kill. What do you say we try to do that here? What do we got to lose? We're 17 and 53. This is tanking? Or maybe it's trying something different to win in the future. Look, if you've got a team throwing basketball games, draft lottery probably isn't going to stop that. And you got more problems than a draft lottery is going to fix. I've never liked the draft lottery. And I also think that it provides more question marks than it about its legitimacy than it does prevent tanking, let's just say. The New York Knicks get Zion Williamson this year because the starters certainly didn't help out the team. They got the worst record in basketball the way it is. Let's see what the guys on the rest of the bench can do. It's the oldest thing in sports. I don't know why it is, frowned upon. Tri-City Sports Now.
Come and celebrate the strawberry season and enjoy buckets